to Congressman Malinowski for opening remarks. Can you please unmute yourself?
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, everyone, for joining, particularly to Rich for spending some time with us today. This is obviously an extremely important and timely topic. We've experienced our share of cybersecurity issues in our part of New Jersey, including very recently a ransomware attack against Somerset County government, which CISA played a very, very helpful role in helping to resolve. And of course, all of this, all of our conversation today will be set against the backdrop of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which began with cyber attacks and which has reminded us that this is a new arena of warfare in the world today. We have been fortunate in at least the first few weeks of this conflict not to have been hit by significant disruptions from Russia. But that's not simply because they haven't tried. It's also because the United States government, Congress, the administration acting together, and CISA in particular as our frontline cyber defense agency, have taken a number of practical steps to secure the homeland against that kind of threat. We are more resilient than we have been in the past as a result. I've been working hard on these issues in the House. I have a bipartisan bill which we think has a good chance of passing soon that will strengthen cybersecurity of our satellites. Our network of satellites are absolutely critical to a lot of what we do in our daily lives in America in the 21st century, GPS being the most obvious example. And there are significant vulnerabilities that adversaries could potentially exploit. And so I've been working with all the experts, including the folks at CISA, to try to figure out how we can close those vulnerabilities. And that's going to be a priority for me over the coming months. So with those few words, I want to turn things over to Rich. CISA is just an amazing resource for individuals, for businesses, large and small. And I hope all of you take advantage of the time that we have with him to ask questions, to learn more about the resources that they offer, and of course, to establish an ongoing relationship because they are there for us whenever we need them. So with that, thanks so much, Sarah. Thanks everybody for joining. Hope you have an informative session.
All right, thank you so much for the kind introduction, Congressman. Let me share my screen here, see if I can do this. I confess I am not a Zoom wizard. If it was Teams, I'd be great. All right, can I get a thumbs up that you can see my presentation? Awesome, thank you so much, Mr. Morrow. All right, so my name is Rich Richard. Like was said, I am the Chief of Cybersecurity for CISA Region 2. CISA is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or as I like to say it, the agency where security is so nice, we say it twice. So this is our second event sponsored by the Congressman, and we are pleased to have such an ongoing proactive relationship with him. Like I said, I represent Region 2, as you can see here on the screen, is New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the US Virgin Islands. I am the Chief of Cybersecurity, so I oversee the Cybersecurity Advisor Program. Those are the folks that, the boots on the ground folks, the belly buttons you can poke in regards to local services that CISA can provide you and whatnot. This is going to be a very general best practices type briefing. Hopefully you'll find it entertaining. I've injected a little humor, but we're going to talk about things at a high level. It is not going to be technical at all. So, you know, have no fear. If you're not a Big Bang Theory computer nerd, it shouldn't matter whatsoever. And like was said, we'll entertain questions when it's all said and done. So let's see how we can go. There we go. All right. So CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Just a real quick, who is CISA? We serve as the nation's risk advisor. At least that's our goal. Notice, we are not the nation's risk manager. It is not our place to dictate to the folks that we work with how they should conduct themselves in regards to physical and cybersecurity. We are not law enforcement. I do not have a badge or a gun, nor is CISA a regulatory agency. I have no authorities, statutory or regulatory, over anyone. We work with folks in critical infrastructure, stakeholders in critical infrastructure primarily. So anybody from a hospital to a bank to a university to a K through 12 school district to an electric company, a water company, and everybody in between. Critical manufacturing, the dam sector, you name it, we work there, transportation, all those folks. We also work with faith-based institutions as well as nonprofits. You're all eligible to take part in our services. Everything that we do with people is done on their terms. Like I said, we are not here to be Big Brother. We want to work with you however makes sense for you. Like I said, I serve as part of Region 2. We are your local CISA element. We have a headquarters branch down in DC and down in Arlington, but then we're laid out geographically. There are 10 CISA regions. I have cybersecurity advisors in places like Buffalo, Albany, and Trenton. We're in the process of hiring for New York City, as well as Puerto Rico, as well as some other billets down in New Jersey. So we're always looking for good help. So here's the shameless plug for if you're looking for probably the best job you'll ever have, keep your eye on USA Jobs because we're constantly advertising for more positions. All right, so again, we're going to talk very generally and then maybe a little bit more specific, but have no fear, no technical, gobbledygook involved. So, we keep hearing cyber. It's all we hear about nowadays is cyber. Well, why is cyber so important? What's the big deal? Well, honestly, it's because nowadays it is literally everywhere. It's in the buildings like you see here that we sit in, building management systems that control the elevators to water, to everything that's going on, AC and heat, you name it. Think of a big hospital, say in New York City, where you have hospital gases and telemetry units and all. I mean, it's just filled with cyber. It's in our cars. Nowadays you can't go anywhere without your car, having a computer in it. It literally has a computer in it. It's amazing the technology that is in place now in our vehicles. Obviously, it's throughout our production system. It could be like you see here, the robotics that we see on the car commercials and things like that. Think of things like pipelines and water pumping stations and the like. Again, everything is controlled by computers. The sensors that monitor flow and things like that, they're all computerized and whatnot. Our health systems, like I said, our health systems are just cyber-centric nowadays. Things like MRI machines and CAT scanners, like I talked about, the telemetry units that are now wireless and things like that, your electronic medical record systems. I mean, think of the old days when everything was charted on paper and with a pen, and what that would mean now if an electronic medical record system in a healthcare facility were to go down and they have to go back to paper. That's almost a catastrophic thing nowadays. So that's why cyber is such a big deal. It's because we can't get by without it, and it's literally everywhere. All right, so what? I get this a lot. Why is it? What's the big deal about cyber? And I love these little posters, the demotivators. They kind of make some interesting points. So I look at cyber as, like it says here, it's not really all that much different than the physical world, the cyber world. You have a business. That business might have a front door that you go in. It might have a back door where products and services come in and out of the building. You might have procedures to let customers in your front door, or maybe it's a wide open place like a grocery store where you want people to come in and spend their money. The physical world, I should say the cyber world, is really not all that much different when you think about it. It's like you have access to systems. Those systems control certain things. You know, maybe you need a password and an ID to get in the front door, so to speak. So that gives you a certain level of access to that system, which then maybe you might use other things. Maybe you're an administrator and you don't go through the same method of accessing as, say, a customer would or an employee would. So it's kind of all the same, you know, if you think about it that way. And you see some of here these terms. These are all over the news. Bad actor is the current one. Hacker, very misused term nowadays. And cyber attack, very general term for basically anyone trying to inflict some form of cyber badness upon an organization. All right, cybercrime. It's out there, large and small. Anywhere from gift card scams to business email compromises that are costing companies tens of millions of dollars, and everything in between. Scams like where you think you're buying something on eBay and someone's stealing your money, or you purchase, back when coronavirus first came out and home tests weren't really a thing, but yet 2 weeks after the coronavirus pandemic was declared, people were selling home test kits online, even though nothing had been in the pipeline yet. They didn't even exist. There's lots of bad guys out there. And frankly, here's the deal. They don't care if they're hurting the people they steal from. They don't care if they're draining people's life savings. They don't care if they're causing hate and discontent, shutting down businesses, which then cause people to lose their jobs. They are there to cause mayhem and make money. At least the ones that are there to make money you can treat them as a business person a little bit. But you also have the element that is just out there to do bad things for the sake of doing bad things. They want to cause chaos. And it even comes down to things like nowadays, like it says here, even murder. It wasn't all that long ago where there was a case of a person who was coerced into committing suicide via social media and text messages and the like. In fact, there's a TV movie coming out, I believe, not too soon, or it might already be out, where a person was found guilty. They were found culpable in this person's death, and they ended up going to jail for quite a while. So it's to that level. In fact, there's even a case of a cyber attack to a healthcare facility, I believe it was in Germany, where they affected something in a person's healthcare in the ICU, and a person died as a result of a cyber attack. So it's out there, and it's a danger whether, like it says here, whether you're online or offline. And there's a lot you can do, just certain basic things that can keep you safe at home, keep your systems clean at work. Very basic things that you can do. All right, so briefly, malware. Malware is any kind of software that gets installed for nefarious purposes. It is there to do things like capture keystroke information or harvest user credentials. Perhaps it can install software that gives bad guys a greater level of access that they can then use to leverage to do more bad things. You talk about those business email compromises and the like. When I first started with DHS and now CISA, it was back in 2016, and I got a call from a company that basically a young lady was asked by her boss on her first day of work to go out and buy a whole bunch of Amazon gift cards for Employee Appreciation Day. They were going to, the plan was to gift, the employees for Employee Appreciation Day, gift them with Amazon gift cards of varying denominations. Came from the CEO of the company. The email came from the CEO of the company. First day at work, off they went to the store, bought the gift cards, thinking they're doing a great thing. Scratched all the information off, took pictures of it, and sent them to what they thought was the boss's phone, because they were going to distribute these cards over email or text message. Come to find out, obviously, that they were taken advantage of. This was a scam, and $2,500 in gift cards are now gone. And it came out of this person's pocket. And when they did the investigation, they found out that the email that asked her to do this was actually legit. It was sent from the company's systems out of the account of the CEO, meaning that they were compromised and someone was in posing, basically using the legitimate systems to pose as the boss. And, luckily she was reimbursed. The company took care of her. So I was happy to hear that. But this kind of stuff happens. And it all starts with some malware. Somebody clicked on something that they shouldn't have. Somebody opened that email or that document somewhere and something got installed. It's that simple. You just click on the wrong thing and sometimes the bad guys are off to the races. All right, so the congressman talked about the event that happened in Somerset County. They were infected with ransomware. I'm not really at liberty to talk exactly what happened. The investigation is still ongoing there. Like the congressman said, the county is working diligently, with all the resources available to them, both state, public, and private, to get themselves squared away. But they got hit with ransomware. What is ransomware? Basically, it is a piece of software that goes onto your computers and encrypts your files on your computers. You go home from work one day, you log off, you come back the next day, and you're going to see a screen that basically says something that your files are now under protection, they're under encryption, however the bad guys like to phrase it. It just depends upon the variant of ransomware that you are infected with. And basically, your files and your information are now being held as hostage, with the idea of making you pay in Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency to get your own information back. It's like it says here, it's often downloaded in the background. Again, you get that email, it has an attachment. Perhaps it looks legit, perhaps it's just something that people are trying to basically get you to act on. Usually it has a sense of urgency to it, and you click on something you shouldn't have, and something starts running in the background. Like it says here, ransomware is a lot of times it's also used as a decoy. So just because you can't see your data doesn't mean the bad guys aren't taking it from you. They have the decryption key, so they can copy the files. A lot of times they, to install the ransomware, they leverage some access. So they've probably been running around on your network or on your computer for a little while, sometimes a long while, before they activate the ransomware. And they use that as a cover to steal customer data, personal information, things like that. All right, so this is what you see. Like I said, you log in, the next day, and it wants you to send money to different places. Ransomware is a scourge, and it is not going away anytime soon. I'm going to talk a little bit more later about some of the resources that CISA has to help combat ransomware. But for the moment, let me just talk about. So you see this. We in government never recommend you pay the ransom. The more that people get infected and pay the ransom, the more it simply affirms the business model of the bad guys. As long as it's profitable to do it, it will continue to happen. That's why we do not ever advocate paying the ransom. Now, taking off my my CISA hat and putting on Rich the Cyber Guy hat, I get why people pay the ransom. Hospitals get infected with this. Like I said, their electronic medical record systems get infected. They can't afford to be down. They make good candidates to pay. The bad guys know their audience. They know their business. They will price their the ransom accordingly. They know how much income an organization makes. They know how much what their risk tolerance is, and they will price it exactly at the point where it would be more painful for them to have to restore from backup, more timely, more costly than it would be to pay the ransom up front. Now, one of the reasons we tell people you should never ever pay the ransom is because there's no guarantee that you're going to get the decryption key. And B, just because you do get a decryption key doesn't mean it's going to work. In fact, roughly about 10% of all computers that are infected with ransomware, the decryption key will not work. And a large percentage of those where it doesn't work, basically your information is gone. It is affected so badly that the decryption won't work. And the only recourse is to wipe the hard drive and start from scratch. So paying for that decryption key in those cases did you nothing at all. And nor is it a magic bullet. Just because you get the decryption key and you plug it in, it doesn't just run for 30 seconds and you're back up in business. It takes time to decrypt all these computers. And like I said, it doesn't necessarily work. So you're still out the time and money it takes to re-image all those systems, even if you did pay, that are now busted because they got infected with this. The ransomware used to be not too destructive, not too costly. Now, like it says here, I mean, the ransoms are in the millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars. They are becoming, very costly. And quick plug, again, just because you're a home user does not mean you're immune to things like ransomware and other malware. The bad guys will price it accordingly. They know you're not a business where you can pay $500,000, but you might be willing to pay $500 to get your files back. Think of what's on our home computers. Like in my case, I have twin boys. They are 22 years old. They're getting ready to graduate college, and all their baby pictures from the sonogram pictures all the way through high school graduations and everything else are on my computer. Luckily, I have them backed up. But let's just say I didn't. And if I were to get infected with a ransomware, you can bet that my wife would be demanding that we would get these pictures back by paying any cost. There'd be no price too high to pay to get all those pictures back. So just have a care and understand that because you're a home user doesn't make you immune to these sorts of things. Here's some of the things that the federal government does for folks. Again, your companies can sign up to receive these alerts. All this information is posted publicly on different websites. CISA's website, the FBI, the Secret Service. You just have to take a few minutes and look for it. But you can find all the alerts and bulletins and the like. And this is just an example of an FBI putting out a bulletin back in March of this year where they talked about cyber actors doing ransomware attacks on local government agencies, such as counties, that proved to be really disruptional, like it says here, to public safety. You think about it, and again, I'm not saying this specifically for Somerset County, but think of everything that happens at the county level: 911 systems, dispatch of fire and police and EMT activity, all that kind of stuff. Even things as simple as trying to pay your taxes online or take advantage of veteran benefits. Surveillance cameras in jails and stuff like that. You see the different things that have happened. Again, it's an ongoing thing. Somerset just happened to be the latest that got hit, and I guarantee you there'll be more that happen. Hopefully, people will start to work towards better hardening their infrastructures. I've worked with a lot of folks in small and medium business, especially, where their strategy for avoiding cyber attacks is to keep their fingers crossed and their head in the sand. I'm too small, they won't notice me. That is not the ideal way to avoid a cyber attack. All right, so phishing. Phishing is still the biggest way that bad guys get into people's networks. They will shotgun out 100,000 emails. All they need is one person to click on something. Maybe it's a link in an email. Maybe it's a document or some kind of a file that you clicked on thinking it was going to do something for you. Maybe it actually looked like it did something. Maybe it was a job application. Maybe you posted something in social media that said, hey, I'm really tired of my job. I'm looking for a new job. Anybody know where a skilled engineer or a person that works on stealth programs for contractors? Any idea where I can get a good job? 2 days later, you get an email that says, oh, by the way, we are hiring. And I'll bet you that we're going to hire at a rate that's probably double what you're getting paid now. You look like you're a valuable employee, and it's a shame you're being so underpaid. Let us help you out. Here's a job application. They fill out the job application, they send it back. You know, they're thinking to themselves, here's my dream job. I'm going to make twice as much money. The boat is on the way. I can see all that kind of stuff happening. Nothing happens. Well, that work computer that you filled out that job application on is now infected with something, all because they took advantage of something that got posted on social media, perhaps a little bit of oversharing. Now that happened, and now anywhere from individual bad guy to a nation state is now on your network, running around doing bad things. I say this because there was actually a campaign by a foreign government that did that exact thing, that basically used job applications to phony companies to get people to open documents on their work computers for defense contractors, pharmaceutical companies, and things like that, that were then exploited. So it happens. And I love this. It's like, you know, I tell people, you know, why me? You know, why did this happen to me? And, you know, a lot of times it's an accident. Sometimes it's just people just clicking on things willy-nilly. And I hate to say it, you know, sometimes it might be that you serve as the example. And it's horrible when that happens, but it happens. You know, there's nothing you can do about it. Just be proactive. So again, phishing, what should you look for? Anything that's suspicious. You'll see, just like I was talking about the physical security world, you know, you see things that seem sketchy. You know, maybe you're at the mall late at night and you come out and something, you know, you're walking to your car and something doesn't seem right. You get that intuition that something sketchy's going on. So you go back inside and maybe you get a security guard to walk you out to your car or something like that. Whatever the case may be, you listened to your gut. You trusted your gut. Same thing in the cyber world. Many, many times people know they'll see something and they say to themselves, this is probably too good to be true. But what if it's not? And they click on something they shouldn't have. A lot of times they'll be coerced by that. They'll get these emails or these text messages or the phone calls from folks purporting to be the IRS, your bank, your credit card company. You need to log in right now. We suspect that your room or we suspect that your account has been compromised. We are the IRS. You know, we see that you owe us $32,000, and unless you start talking to us right now, we are going to lock your social security number. We are going to send you to jail because we're going to prosecute you. They're threatening. They're coercive. They want you to take action now. They have a sense of urgency. Anytime you get those sorts of things, more than likely 99.999% of the time, they are going to be a phishing attempt. They're going to ask you to verify your login ID and password. They're going to have links that go to places that don't have anything to do with your bank or your credit card company. And, you know, sometimes you see after the fact that you were taken advantage of. Maybe you try to log into your bank account and it's locked for some reason. Well, perhaps somebody got in and tried to do something and your bank took action proactively to prevent that from happening. You start getting those emails that said, we see that you requested to reset your password because maybe you have multi-factor authentication enabled. Or you start getting those text messages on your phone. We see that you've requested, you know, an account login, you know, here's your code. And you say to yourself, I have no idea what you're talking about. I didn't request that at all. Well, that's someone trying to break into your account. Those are some of the things that you're looking for. All right, so what do you do if you think you are the victim of a phishing attack? You're the poor stormtrooper who now has many regrets because you clicked on that thing, you were keeping your fingers crossed that it wasn't too good to be true, and then you found out that it is. So what do you do? If you did it on a work computer, you need to go right to your IT organization and talk to them about it. One of the things I strongly encourage leadership of organizations is to develop a culture of awareness within their organizations, whereby employees who report things that they think are sketchy, they are empowered to do so. There's a mechanism for them to do so. And if they do make a mistake, they're not penalized, especially if it was just made in good conscience. People make mistakes, it happens. Reporting that so it can be addressed as soon as possible. The sooner you can take care of things in cyber attacks, the better off your organization is. So empower your people to make good decisions. And if something does happen, listen to them so you can take action. It's to your benefit. Your people are your first line of defense when it comes to things. They are going to see the phishing emails that get through your filters and stuff. So if this happens, at home, again, you can report it to the Internet Crime Complaint Center that is ran by the FBI. I caveat that with it's monitored, but if you get scammed out of a pair of sneakers or something like that, that is not something they're going to be able to, they're not going to call you back over it. Just kind of level set expectations a little bit. But if something happens and you gave someone a password to your bank account, you need to call your bank immediately. Let them know what happened. Change your passwords. If you think you gave away your password, log on and change it. Do not do so via links or text messages. So you get that email, excuse me, you get that email from your bank that says, we think your account has been compromised. You need to click here to change your password. If you think there's any legitimacy to that, don't use the email or don't use the link in the email. Open a brand new web page to go to your bank. If you do online banking, do it no differently than you normally do. Just don't use the link. Change your password. Give them a call. Same thing for your credit card companies. Give them a call. Let them know what happened. They will be more than happy to look for stuff going on. They'll see if someone from an overseas IP address tried to access your accounts and things like that. They can shut down a credit card and issue you a new one, and you can get it next day most of the time. It might cost you $10 to have it overnighted to you, but hey, it beats being ripped off. So, and you can see some of these things here. Do a scan on your computer. You should have a reputable, up-to-date malware product running on your computer. Do a scan. Don't count on the passive scans that it might do every once in a while. Do an active scan and take a look and see what's there. And like it says here, you can always put out an alert on your credit card company. All right, password tips. Everybody's been here, right? They've forgotten their password and the hammer comes out and the keyboard looks really bad because of it. I get it. It stinks when your password is so long you can't remember it. It stinks when you have to change your password every once in a while. I've been there. I have a little bit of sympathy, but only a little bit. When I worked for Northrop Grumman Corporation, I was an information system security manager, and I was required on some of my systems to have 14 character passwords that were generated by a random password generator that changed every 60 days. And if I wrote it down based upon the systems that I was working on, if I wrote that down somewhere and I got busted, I could go to jail. So if I had to remember that and I could do it, and I'm not the brightest bulb in the pack there. I think we can remember our own passwords that we craft ourselves. So here's some tips. Use different passwords on different systems. You should not be using the same password at work and at home and on Facebook and everywhere else in the world, because if it's compromised once, then everywhere you go is now compromised as well. Try to use long passwords. The longest that's allowed on the system. Think about things like pass phrases. I'm a New York Giants fan. I heart the New York Giants, and change the A to an @ sign and a 1 to an exclamation point or something like that. Use a mix of uppercase, lowercase letters and numbers and the special symbols. You should be using complex passwords. Just know that adding an exclamation point to the end of your favorite password is the most common practice that people employ to in their minds, make their passwords more tricky. Just know the bad guys know that as well. So if they can get your password and it changes, the first thing they're going to try is the same password with an exclamation point on the end. Change it every once in a while. You know, I'm not saying you need to change it every 60 days like Grumman made me do, but you should periodically change it, you know, even if it's every 6 months. And you can use a password manager, a great tool to keep track of things. Instead of you trying to remember on your noggin here all your different passwords, you can employ a password manager. You get what you pay for. So just understand that if you download a free password manager, which you can do from the internet, because we all know we can find anything for free on the internet, just know that there are going to be strings attached, like malware perhaps, or other nefarious code stuffed into this free software manager or password manager. So have a care for what you click on, and like I said, use a reputable product. Do your time, do your research. Fortunately, I'm not allowed to recommend one over the other because I work for the government. They kind of frown on that. If I say use X and company B found out I said to use X, they're going to go, hey, why didn't you say use us? Why'd you say them? And it turns into a big kerfuffle. So we're not allowed to recommend products. Like I said, just you get what you pay for. Just think of it that way. All right. So online safety, our goal as an organization is to help people not be the bunny here. So many times, people, companies, governments, they open themselves up, sometimes without knowing, sometimes with the best of intentions. And, they end up being the bunny trying to hug the oncoming, rider mower here. Our goal is to help people not be the bunny. All right. So this is just, again, some things you can do to better protect yourself online. Secure your networks. Understand your wireless routers are a way for people to get in. How many times have you set your phone up, like you get your phone and you're driving around and it says, connect to this Wi-Fi, connect to that Wi-Fi, because you're scanning, looking for open Wi-Fi. You should not be doing that because it gives people with, Wi-Fi networks that are looking for such things a way in, if you automatically connect. So secure your Wi-Fi at home. Make it hidden from the outside world. So you have to know which network you're connecting to. You have to explicitly authorize people to connect. Have it password protected and things like that. Again, stay up to date. Keep your software updated. There is nothing worse than being taken advantage of by a bad guy exploiting a vulnerability where that hole was patched 6 months to a year ago, and you just didn't get around to installing it, or maybe your company didn't. It's a horrible position to be in. One of the many programs that CISA has available that, like I said, people can take advantage of is we can do vulnerability scanning of your perimeters. So if we can see it from the outside, we can scan it for you and give you a report and say, look, this particular IP address has these patches are missing off of it. It has this port that's open. Maybe it has services running on it that shouldn't be running. We can do that for you for free and basically say, look, here's what's going on with your system. Here are the things, the holes you can close, and we'll tell you what to do to close those holes. It's a great service to take advantage of. Again, antivirus. Having a reputable malware product on your computer that is up to date goes a long way. 95% of the stuff that goes on, if you have a good malware product installed and it's up to date and your systems are patched, doing those two things will avoid a great deal of all the badness that's going on out there. Having good backups is a key as well. Save your information. Have an offline copy, burn a CD. I know it sounds like old school nowadays to burn a CD, but burn that to a DVD, all those family photos, your tax records and things like that, and throw it in a drawer. You do that every once in a while. If you get hit with something that your antivirus didn't detect, you know, at least you've got a backup of your important information. Same for at work. Back that stuff up and make sure your backups work. There's nothing worse than, you know, thinking that your backups are kicking right along. That bad day happens. You're like, cool, I'll just restore. And you come to find out that your backups are bad because they weren't air gapped or logically gapped from the rest of your network, and whatever infected your network has now infected your backups. And multi-factor authentication, great tool to avoid people getting into your accounts. Multi-factor authentication is that deal where you log into your credit card or your bank and it sends you a text message to your phone and says, here's your code. You know it's legit because you just tried to log in, and 10 seconds later you got that code, you plug in the right code, and you know you're off doing business. If someone happens to guess your password or harvest your password and login ID, they don't have your phone. They don't have your phone number. So when they try to log in and that text message requesting that PIN, that 6 or 8 digit when it comes in, they don't see that. You do. And that's the time where you start, if you see that, you know, like 2 times, 3 times, bing, 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 well, someone is trying to get into your account. That's what happens. So that's where you want to call your bank, maybe log in and change your password just to be safe, because the fact that they were able to generate the code means they have the correct information. Here's a big deal. Again, I'm going to take my CISA hat off, even though this is my Navy hat, not my CISA hat, but figuratively it works. Keeping your kids safe online. This is a passion for me. Like I said, I have 22-year-old twin boys. Those 22-year-old twin boys at one time were like 5th and 6th graders getting their first laptops because nowadays everything is done via computer. I was shocked to learn that my kids didn't even learn how to write in script because everything is typed. It's amazing how that works nowadays. So keeping your kids safe online is a big deal. For me as a dad, especially as an IT guy, we had a vested interest in keeping our kids safe. So here's some just general guidance, general tips. Take it for what it's worth. Again, this isn't the official government stance on anything. This is just Rich, the computer guy who is a dad, speaking here. Be involved when your kids are connected. You know, if they're playing online gaming and things like that, it's perfectly okay to take a look and see what they're doing. Know who their friends are, know who they're playing their games with. A lot of times I would, if they started playing a game, it could be a little silly game on their phone or something like that. I would be a part of it. I would get the same game and I would play with them. I'd make sure that they knew the rules of the road. We had very well established rules for computer and phone use in our family. We understood, we made sure they understood that dad is paying for the devices, dad is paying for your connectivity. Dad reserves the right, as does mom, to get on any of your devices whenever I want to. That's just the rules of the road. At least it was in the Richard household. Again, you do however you think is best to do with your kids, but have some baseline ground rules and make sure your kids understand them. That's my point. Monitor. Do things like ask questions. It's not against the rules to ask questions what your kids are doing on the devices that you're paying for. And again, don't let them use your accounts. Never let them on your work computers to do things. Have their own separate accounts when they do things. This way, if their account gets compromised, the family is still protected. And you can do this. You can lock your kids' credit file. A lot of people don't realize this. Especially when kids are little, you can call up the big 3 credit companies. I'm not going to say who they are, but if you look them up, you can call them and see if there's any activity on your kids' like social security number and things like that, and lock their credit. There is no reason why a 6-year-old needs to have a Visa card. And sometimes Experian and here I named one, but sometimes those credit card companies will contact you if something happens. Sometimes they won't. So be proactive and talk to them ahead of time about it. All right, social media, social engineering. I'm going to be the first to say that the only social media I use is LinkedIn, and I only do it for work purposes. I do not have Facebook or Instagram or any of those other things. So I am the last person that can talk to you specifically about those different platforms, because I don't use them, so I don't have any experience with them. But I will say this, people overshare tremendously via social media. They share way too much about themselves without thinking that there are bad guys out there that are trying to collect and collate that information to build a picture about who you are, what you do, when you're home, when you're not, and then use that information against you. Maybe they want to steal your identity. Maybe they want to compromise you in such a way to ask you to do things at work. You know, people post things, and maybe you're, like I said, maybe you're like that person that is disgruntled with their job and you posted something, and now that has been taken advantage of and your company is having all their intellectual property stolen because you overshared on something that said you're pissed off at life and at work and you're going to quit if the first opportunity that comes along, I'm out of here, kind of a thing. And that opportunity magically materialized, and all of a sudden it wasn't the good news you thought it was. Just understand that what you post is forever. Sometimes people think that they delete things. Just because you deleted it doesn't mean it's gone, is the best way to say that. If nothing else, you posted something. There's nothing stopping anyone from taking a picture of what you posted with their phone, a screenshot, a snapshot, and using it against you. Understand that you post things. I had this conversation with my sons. It's great that you're at college and maybe you go to a frat party and your buddies have got the picture of you with you're getting the keg poured over your head, kind of a thing. And it was all fun and games and things like that. Well, you worked hard, you got a good degree. You're sitting for your first interview for your dream job. And the HR person spins, says, is this you? And they turn their computer around and show you that picture of you getting that keg dumped on your head because you overshared and you didn't control who could see what you posted. And there goes that dream job, kind of a thing. That stuff happens. Traveling, this is another thing. I do it a lot for the government, including internationally. So just some quick tips. Again, you don't want to auto connect. Turn off your connectivity in the airports, your Bluetooth and things like that if you're not using it. Understand that the more things you have activated and open, they all serve as potential gateways into your devices. Make sure your computers, your devices are updated. Make sure everything, like it says here, is backed up. If you're not locking your device when you're not using it, you should be. Get into the habit to locking it. That way, if you're using your phone and it falls out of your pocket, you leave it sit behind in the chair, you get up, you race off to your flight, you get on, you're at the gate, you're on the plane, they back away, they tell you to turn off your cell phone, and you go to turn off your cell phone, and all of a sudden you can't find your cell phone because it's sitting back in the chair because you were in a hurry. Well, if it's locked, at least people are not using it. And have a care about wireless networks in places like airports, in places like hotels. A lot of times, especially in international airports in cities that have embassies in it, might be a good way to look at it. Those Wi-Fi networks are greatly exploited. Those hotel networks are greatly exploited. Do not be doing work over an unsecured, Wi-Fi connection. Use a VPN or things like that offers you some protection. If you need to do banking or something like that on your phone and you're in a hotel, go through the cell signal. Do not use the hotel's Wi-Fi. That'll alleviate a tremendous amount of the risk that you would be, because you never know. There could be a person right in the room next to you using that open Wi-Fi and capturing everything that goes on that hotel network. First things first, where do you start? I get that a lot. Where do you start? I talked before, in our previous event about the CISA Cyber Essentials. Take a look at that website. Go take a look at it, CISA Cyber Essentials. If you're a company or an organization in critical infrastructure, tremendous amount of stuff that you can do there, checklists of where to start, what to do, things to look for, tools you can employ. But first of all, back up your data. Backing up your critical information, understanding what makes your organization tick, and making sure that information is backed up somewhere and protected. Like I said before, test the backups, make sure they work. I talked before about multi-factor authentication. Absolutely employ it wherever possible. It can really save your bacon. And again, patching, by all means, patch, allow those systems to get updated. If it's given you the opportunity, you get that thing click to allow it to update, allow it to update. It can save you a lot of trouble in the long run. There's a great deal more we can do for you, CISA can. I talked before, different like the patching program. We can do things like phish your organization for you. So if you don't phish your users, we can do it for you. We can do things like penetration testing for your organization. And it's all free. It's all free. It's all voluntary. We can do cybersecurity exercises with your organization. Great mechanism to find out what you don't know. You often hear the phrase, I don't know. You don't know what you don't know. Doing a cyber tabletop exercise for your organization is a great way to figure out what you don't know. Find gaps in your incident response plan and things like that. Small and medium business is a passion for our organization, especially so in the region. I really try hard to support things like chambers of commerce and things like that to equip them with resources, those companies, their members and the like. CISA has a whole website devoted to guidance for small and medium businesses. I can't even show you the whole thing. It's just too big. Take a look. You see the link at the bottom, but again, if you use your search engine of choice and Google CISA small business, it'll take you right to it. Take some time, take a time at lunchtime and poke around in some of these resources that are available to you if you're in small and medium business. There's a lot of good stuff here for you to use. Shields Up. When Russia rolled into Ukraine, long before the tanks, crossed the border, like the congressman said, the government of Russia used cyber warfare against the Ukrainians to attempt to destabilize their government ahead of the physical, attack. As a result of all that and the threat, we understand that there's a threat not just to Ukraine, but to the world at large, specifically to those who have allied themselves with the Ukrainians, where we needed to equip people specifically about what's going on over there, what things the Russian government has done, and how to protect themselves. Shields Up, the website. It is a tremendous resource for anyone to take a look at. Private companies, public companies, government organizations, even homeowners. Take a look, go to Shields Up. It has more information than I could speak. I could speak an hour alone just on what's here at Shields Up. All the relevant information regarding what's going on, the different mechanisms of cyber attack, the types, the things for organizations to look for, things called indicators of compromise, bulletins and alerts, all sorts of information there that you should take a look at. I guarantee you'll find something of use for your organization. You don't have to register or anything, just go there and take a look. You see the website, it's on there a couple different places. But again, if you Google Shields Up, take you right to it, take a look. Ransomware. Ransomware, like I said, it's not going away anytime soon. Before we had Shields Up, we had stopransomware.gov. Again, if you plug in Google, type stopransomware.gov, take you right to the website, the CISA website. Specific guidance on ransomware, like it says here, mitigations, again, alerts, guidance, indicators of compromise specific to ransomware. It's not specific to like a nation state activity. It's specific to the practice of ransomware. Alerts, things to look for. There's guides, there's, how-to documents, all kinds of information that you can employ to avoid getting hit by ransomware. That's our goal. Resilience is CISA's mantra, building resilience proactively within organizations. We want to help you avoid the bad day, build you up ahead of time so that bad day, maybe you can avoid it. And if you can't, it won't be so bad to get out from under it because you worked ahead of time with us. Take advantage of these resources. They're there. That is my story, and I'm sticking to it. This is my contact information. I will make a sanitized copy of this presentation available that you can use. If you want to take a screenshot, that's fine. What I'm going to do right now is, if I can figure out how to stop sharing, we can go to the Q&A portion. All right.
Thank you so much, Rich. Just because we don't have tons of time left, I think we're just going to do one or two FAQ questions that we picked beforehand.
I can stay on for as long as there's questions. I'll stay on for as long as you want.
Okay. So we're just going to do a few. And also, for anyone asking, we'll be sending out his slides after this presentation. So if you are not subscribed to our email, I'm just going to put that link in the chat really quickly, so people can subscribe and get that email of these slides. Great. So first question, it's a two-part question that we had from people that submitted it previously, but they're wondering if there are any required minimum standards by law of protection that public organizations must meet. And then additionally, can those public municipalities get a vulnerability scan from CISA if they would like one?
Sure. Let me answer the first question, or the last question first, I should say. Absolutely, you can take part in all of CISA services, from the vulnerability scanning to the phishing to the pen testing and everything else. I would love to have a conversation specific with you where I can talk in greater detail about all the different services and resources CISA has available to you. So if you're a municipality, a county government, a private company, anybody in between, a nonprofit, a church, a temple, you name it, we can work with you. I'd be happy to have that conversation. Honestly, the first question, standards and the like I said, CISA is not a regulatory agency. Now, I know that depending upon your industry, you could be as part of a regulated industry, which, depending upon what that is, if you're a financial institution, you'll have different regulatory requirements to operate under than if you were, say, like a water treatment plant or things like that. We kind of stay out of the regulatory side of the house because we work with people agnostically, as in not in a regulatory capacity. So I'm kind of not versed to address the regulatory side, but it really just depends upon who you are. And if you're under regulatory requirements, I guarantee you it's not a surprise. You know this already.
Great, thank you. And then I know you also mentioned using a VPN, in a public place that has public Wi-Fi. Someone just asked previously, does the use of VPN, protect your computer from cyber attacks? To what level does a VPN protect you?
A VPN is great. If you think of the internet, like when you connect to the internet, think of it, as a big tunnel from your computer to the world, and information is coming through that tunnel. A VPN basically puts a little tunnel inside the big tunnel. So let's think of a pipe inside the pipe, and that inside tunnel is encrypted. So the communications that are going on that encrypted channel are largely free from cyber attack. Now, again, if you click on something that you shouldn't have and give people access through that tunnel, well, then you're not protected. But by and large, a VPN is a tremendous way, a great way to prevent that snooping from the outside. If you connect via a VPN through that airport Wi-Fi, and somebody is on the outside, maybe sitting at the bar or the coffee shop, next to you, they won't be able to see what's going on that tunnel because it's encrypted.
Okay, great, thank you. Also, Rich, are you okay if we share your email in the chat just for people can follow up?
I did. I plugged it in. I already put it in there.
Okay, I just in case people missed the screenshot, I'm going to include it in the chat section as well. Great, and then we're just going to go one or two more questions. Obviously, I know we've talked a little bit about Russia and the invasion of Ukraine, and how, as you mentioned before the physical invasion, they had attacked some of Ukraine's cyber infrastructure. But some people were wondering how vulnerable our voting systems are to attacks from Russia, and if you have any insight on that.
Well, you know, what's a good way to put this? I know for a fact, especially, you know, specifically in New Jersey, that the state is working tirelessly to make sure that all voting will be done in a secure means. They are taking advantage of every resource available to them. They are competent, they are diligent, and you know, they are some of the best people I've ever worked with in regards to cybersecurity. So, you know, again, I don't want to speak on their behalf, that would not be appropriate, but I do know that if I was a resident of the state of New Jersey, I live on Long Island, by the way, so I vote in New York. But if I was a resident of the state of New Jersey, this is me personally speaking, I would have every confidence that my vote would be done in a secure fashion.
Great, thank you. And then just to avoid going too far over, we're just going to do one more question. How safe do you think our electrical grid is to cyber attacks?
That's a very good question. I will say this: it is far safer than it was. Again, you know, we see what's going on. You know, we see what goes on out there in the world. We saw the Russians bring down Ukraine's power grid. It was in like 2014 or 2015. They have used Ukraine for their sandbox for cyber attacks to, you know, practice techniques and tactics, and they brought down the entire power grid. That was a lesson learned for a lot of countries out there, including the United States. And again, you know, I can't speak for everybody everywhere, but I do know that our local power, you know, the stakeholders in power generation and transmission and the like, they work very hard. They employ every mechanism at their disposal, and they block a lot of nefarious activity on a daily basis. Stuff that you know, probably might have been problematic 6-7 years ago is now handled routinely. So I think we're in decent shape as long as we continue to be proactive about things, learn from, you know, like we said, the slide where you had the Titanic or whatever it was going down, learn from what happens elsewhere and continue to, you know, keep up with things. I think we'll be in a good place.
Awesome, great. Thank you so much, Rich. This was so informative, and thank you everyone for joining. Since we didn't get to a live Q&A portion, if you have any remaining questions or concerns that you would like addressed, you can visit malinowski.house.gov/contact and putting that in the chat. And a member of our staff will review your message and be in touch. Additionally, we'll be sending out an email with the slides that Richard had, as well as answers to commonly asked questions relating to cybersecurity. And a way to get that email is to subscribe to our newsletter, which I'm also putting in the chat. It is malinowski.house.gov/contact/newsletter-subscribe. And lastly, if you'd like to come to another one of these events that we host both virtually and around the district, you can go to our website. It is also malinowski.house.gov and then /upcoming-events. So like I said, thank you guys so much all for coming, and I hope you all found this informative, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Rich.
Be safe, folks.